To this session of questions and answers of the film These Are Lines, Linije, želje, directed by Dane Komljen. So next to Dane with us are also Ivan Truic, playing the main role of Branko. Tanja Šljivar, screenwriter of the film. And the two cinematographers of the film, Jenny Luzigal and Ivan Markovic. So I remind you that we have microphones in the room, so we can pass them to you whenever you have questions. I'm sure that it's going to be a very interesting conversation and that we have many things to talk about. And maybe I can start with the easy question about the title of the film, These Are Lines. And I would like to ask Dane if he can tell us a bit more about the title and what does it mean?
Hey everyone, thanks for being here and thanks for watching the film. And yeah, I would just want to say, yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having the film over, Stefan, and the rest of the committee. Desire lines is it's an urbanistic term, so it's a term that describes paths that are not paved, that are not made of stones, paths that walkers make by themselves, with the act of walking. And by walkers, I mean both humans and non-humans. I mean, cows and goats also make their own desire lines outside of cities, but in the cities, we mostly see them in parks. And yeah, it's a weird image, because for me it started as an image. We often think of them as shortcuts, but actually when you start noticing them, you realize that they are sometimes longer, more curvy, more queer than the path that was proposed. You know, so it's not just about this, okay, I just want to reach the destination quick as possible, but it is, I just don't want to follow what was set out for me to follow. I think it speaks more to disobedience and this longing to be free. And then it's the question, what happens with that? But this is where the title comes from.
And thank you. So the film is somehow structured in two parts that also in the credits are presented as the city and the woods. The city, you'll correct me if I say something wrong, but the city being Belgrade and specifically New Belgrade, and the woods being in what is today another country, so not Serbia but Bosnia. Would you like to tell us why did you decide to structure the film like this and have these two different spaces?
I mean, it is definitely, it was to be a film about the landscape where I come from. And I think this landscape is a double landscape. It's a landscape in which I was born, and it's the landscape where I grew up. And I think I really, for me, this growing up happened in Belgrade, in the city. And I think it was also always were to be a film about how desire in a way moves us through spaces, and I wanted somehow to bring those two spaces back together in a way through this film. And from then on, of course, the film was built with the starting in the more in darkness and in the nighttime, and opening itself up in many ways, but also towards the daylight and towards the sun. And one thing that now crossed my mind that I was with when I was watching the film is that I really wanted to have, you know, a body that, you know, that doesn't usually wear a dress, wear this blue dress in this landscape where I come from. I think this was always there, the desire to make that image.
Thank you. And these two different parts of the film were shot by two different cinematographers. I was wondering, why did you take that decision? And maybe Jenny and Ivan, I would be interested in hearing also from you about imagining these two different spaces. I don't know if together on or each one on their own together with Dane.
I think when Dane first told me about the script and also told Jenny about the script, this idea was there from early on as a way to kind of like make these parts in a way different wholes, to accentuate the difference that these two parts have. And there was also this idea that each of us shoots a place that they don't know well. So because I'm from Belgrade, when I first read the script, I assumed that I would shoot in Belgrade, but I was shooting in Bosnia in the forest. And there was, of course, for us, maybe in the beginning, something strange about this idea, but I like Jenny's work, so I was happy to share this role with her. And then in the end, in the process, as we were doing a lot of location scouting and discovering the landscapes and the way to film them together in Bosnia, I realized that there was something about this discovery for me that was real, that kind of brought fresh eyes. And in that sense, it worked for me, yeah.
Can you use, please, your own microphone? It's just a technical issue, but it's better like that. Thank you.
So yeah, the decision was made by Dane. Like, we didn't decide to cut the film, of course. And yeah, I'm from the countryside. Like, I'm more from the forest than Ivan, and I think Dane really wanted to have, as Ivan said, and what this I think also made really different, that the first part was actually shot after the second part, which was due to production or light issues actually, but I think it really worked out super well because they came from Bosnia really tired, and like Ivan was really kind of already like very much in the role, but I think the tiredness really adds to this claustrophobic part of Belgrade. So I think that was not like it was a practical decision, but I think this really worked out. And in a way it was interesting because I didn't have to think about like so much about an arc. Like Dane really didn't want us to communicate. Like Ivan and I, we did tests together, but we didn't talk about the cinematographic language in a way. And I think that was very important to Dane, that we don't change like conceptual ideas. Yeah.
Thank you. Dane, would you like to add something to this?
I mean, it was just, it's a film about shifts and about transformation and going from one place to another. And I really wanted also the perspective or the gaze that shapes the film also, that it shifts in a way. And one can, of course, say that it is very subtle, but for me it is undeniably there. This, in the way that Jenny, Lou, and the way that Ivan how they frame bodies, how they frame spaces, how they work with light. It is just different, and I think this shift in the gaze is something that is that brings a lot to the experience of this film, to the film really offering in different ways the experience of shape-shifting.
And speaking about transformation, I would like to ask Ivan Truic about the character of Branko, because for me, if I read it right, or at least that's my interpretation, in a way, your character at the beginning of the film is kind of a ghost. It's a character that is not there and progressively becomes embodied throughout the film, only to, in a way, also become one with nature and with the other bodies that are in the film. So I wanted to ask you how was it for you to create this character that is, I mean, I don't know if it's really a character to play Branko.
Well, there's again that thing, because we have the city and the forest, and that the first part, city, that's the place where he still doesn't know that he's a ghost. So how the time passes by, he realizes that he doesn't exist. So then when he probably accepted that he doesn't exist and went on that journey to the forest, he started to feel like, he started feeling like more of that freedom, and he starts to enjoy that a new life, let's say.
Thank you. Dane, would you like to also talk about Branko, the main character of the film, which we actually follow almost throughout the whole film, almost in every shot of the film?
This for me was very different from the way that how I made previous films. But I think was with Desire Lines, it was clear that it will be it will be a film that follows one person. And if there is a sense of opening up, it only happens through working with his experience, I think. And I think for me, he started in a very real place, and the real place is the end of the 20s. He was someone who is who was described as like at the end of the 20s, and somehow I took a lot from my own experience and the experience of people that were close to me, when there is this pressure that one needs to choose one path for themselves. And him was, for me, someone who, I don't even know if he doesn't choose, but is unable to follow one path, you know? And I think it was an expression of this desire to keep on trying things out in different ways. And it was, okay, of course, like talking about character, but I think it is also a lot was like talking about the body, you know, like, okay, so how does he move? How does he move when he's in the city? How does he move when he's in his flat? How does he move when he's outside and when it goes on? And how also his posture, his gestures, how they are also a thing that that transforms. And this, I think, was why I'm also grateful to Ivan, that because it was not simply something that would be possible any other way than with an actor that is as talented as Ivan. So this is my thanks.
Thank you. Maybe it's the moment to see if we have some interventions from the audience. We have one in the middle and then one in the back.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I have a lot of questions, but
Please.
maybe I'll only ask two for now. I noticed, like in Afterwater, your latest film, that there are like some kind of how you see the bodies or the connection throughout the bodies. That also in this film continues as some kind of also like as an esoteric experience, maybe that is like really like there is some hidden knowledge there, or like for especially in the scene where it starts with the cruising, that there is something that still develops, and how the protagonist meets the people, that there is something hard to approach, at least for me as someone who's viewing the film. Could you elaborate on that maybe, where it's informed by or what's influenced by, how you see your characters moving through your films? And the second question would be about maybe the military aspect of the film. On one side you have the Branco with the story of his brother, who somehow disappeared, and where he's like left his military uniform and his gear, and then kind of at the end of the film, the people he meets also turn into some kind of soldiers or partisans. Maybe you can also say something about that. Thank you.
I mean, the second question I answered. The first I didn't understand. It is simply the shadow of conflict is simply present where I come from, and it also is not just something that is the background, it is also something that informed, is part of my own life, and it felt like it needs to be addressed. And I think this is maybe where this uniform and the older brother who is in a military, this is where it comes from. And in the second instance, it's partisans, so it was also the monument where they start to speak, when the monument says it's the story about the factory through our characters, is also a monument for the fallen partisans in the Second World War. It is abandoned because there is no political will to keep it in a better shape, but this is what it is. And for me, this was because the Second World War was two things in Yugoslavia. It was on one hand the part of the anti-fascistic struggles, so it was a liberation from fascism. So this is one thing, but it was at the same time a revolutionary struggle. I mean, it emerged a new type of society, and it also felt to me almost like if it is a film that starts very much with a solitary figure and then opens up to different forms of being together, different forms of community, that it seemed unescapable to also address this part of the past that I believe it simply forms part of the landscape. So yeah, this would be the answer about that.
Thank you. We had a question in the back.
Thank you. First of all, hello everybody. Congrats to the film. I liked it very much. When you, Dane Komljen, were born 1986 in Banja Luka, I was already 32 years old. So I remember several directors of earlier times. And in the second part of the movie, I remembered often Andrei Tarkovsky, the famous Russian director. Every artist, every director has his influences. Was he one of your influences, or do you have others?
So I really tried to make my own film.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
believe
so
that.
I really tried. It's like, of course, I've seen a lot of films. Like, I've seen really a lot of films. So, it's not bragging, it's just facts. And Tarkovsky, it's a bit complicated. It's a love-hate relationship, you know. Of course, it's my dad, when I was become clear that I'm getting into cinema, he was like, you need to see Mirror. And of course, I loved Mirror. But Tarkovsky is a bit like, I don't know, like in these family gatherings, you have this uncle who is really actually gets a bit esoteric, and then he gets drunk and starts saying things. And you're a bit like, you would really want him also to shut up, but that doesn't stop you from loving him deeply. So this is my relationship with dear Andrei. But I didn't want to make Stalker here, if this is beneath the question. But I made the film I wanted, and it's Desire Lines. It's not Stalker. Yeah. And influences, I don't know. It's this is one thing I said it's forbidden for even in Jenny Lou during the filming. We couldn't refer to other films. Like there was no like, oh, but this is, and I was, well, let's not talk about that. So maybe this is the answer about influences. It's not up for me to point out.
Thank you. We have another question in the middle.
Hello, everyone. I really enjoyed the film. It was like a meditation for me, really, on the whole film. And I would like to make a question to the main actor. What the work was like in developing the actor's character to work in so many different scenarios, and also the actor's direction to integrate everything and also work with the human silence that I really appreciate that.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. Okay. What the work was like in development the actor's character to work in so many different scenarios, and also the actor's direction to integrate everything and work with the human silence in the film.
I remember before we started shooting that we had a lot of conversations about well, but that's actually maybe it was my concern as an actor. What if I always, what will happen if I always look the same? Like, because there's a lot of, what do you say, silences. And then we try to figure out how to fill those silences, that we don't have that I'm always the same moment. But and then it's always different, because when you're having rehearsal, you're in one room, and you don't have like a proper feeling how is that gonna be when you start shooting on the set. But then when you see all that nature and you having amazing colleagues and amazing DOPs, so it's just, you just have to look and try to be more natural as you can. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe this question can bring us to this, let's say, I don't know how to call it, contrast between silence and words that there is in the film, because we have really big portions of the film where there are no words, and suddenly something emerges, Sometimes it's a phone conversation, sometimes it's a song, sometimes it's a dialogue between human and maybe someone else. So I wanted to ask maybe Tanya and Dane, how did you work in creating this kind of maybe rhythm between words and silences?
Okay, yes, I think unlike in images, what Dani just said, that nothing should and could be referenced, I think there are some references in these texts and these monologues, and actually many of them. Some of them I even forgot. I was now trying to enlist the books, the poems, like maybe some theoretical texts that we were discussing while working on this, and I forgot some of them. In a way, this film also started, it's many things, but I think Dane wrote several versions of the script on his own, and I think at some point when he approached me to collaborate with him further, that it was also like a very free adaptation of a Bosnian Yugoslav novel, Ne tuguj bronzana stražo.
Bronze guards don't mourn. That's the English translation. Bronze guards don't mourn.
So, which is like a very interesting novel because it has this reversed trace. It tackles the group of people who move from Bosnia to Serbia, who move from these mountains to the plains, which is also referenced in one of the monologues. And it's actually part of the Yugoslav project of entering German houses, also post-war German houses, and many different things that were happening. So bringing people from one area to another area that became desolate after World War II. And so now we have someone moving from here to there, and the name of the character is Branko, which is in this case name of this writer who wrote the book. And also, like, I think what is interesting here is, as you said, Stefan, is who gets to speak, and in which cases is our body and sound separated, and in which cases they are brought together. And I feel there is a lot of rhythm also that has been gained through this, I think. And for me, what was really interesting is that I felt like encouraged. Many of the things didn't make it into the film. Many of the things we wrote, like it was a long script in a way. It had maybe one monologue that was even 5 or 10 pages. I don't know, like this.
It was 10 pages, the factory one.
So, so it was really interesting to see. And sorry, one thing I forgot to say about Don't Mourn.
Bronze guards don't mourn.
Is that also this novel, which is like more of a classic post-war modernist novel, deals a lot with the non-human objects, in a way speaking. And this was really interesting. And in a way, it's also violent. Of course, it's violent in this Anthropocene and so on, in all these discourses that we are kind of still forcing this language of ours into the creatures, into the mushrooms, into the monuments. But this is the only way this is the only thing we have for now. So yeah, this is maybe more or less what I have for now to say.
Yeah, but this is the thing, because it's also in the mushroom scene. Adisa says that actually, and this is, we were talking about that okay, we are again forcing non-humans into our language, but that's why there is this sentence where actually mushrooms are those that translate to us. It is their will to be understood. And it doesn't come from our violence. And I think this is the rhythm I think the rhythm that is in the film was found during the editing, but because there was many more scenes where they communicate, and there was many more life forms that get to speak with humans or non-humans. But this is what it stayed in the end for the sake of a better film.
And what about the different languages that are spoken in the film? Because there's Serbo-Croatian, there's Slovenian, and Arabic.
Well, I guess it's, on one hand, it's practical decision. On the other hand, it's also conceptual decision. Because whenever you think about any of the human languages, and we also reference this Latin language, like the dead language, is like, which language is the obvious choice? And then we have this imperialistic history of languages, and then we speak now in English, and so on and so on. So it's like forcing English, first of all, into everyone, and then us coming from. But we wanted to speak about this common language, which is also a bit referenced in the Monument Factory scene, like how the language, which we now call separately, is actually one, and how different variants of Serbo-Croatian maybe could coexist. Even says in one sentence, both versions, like Serbian and Croatian. And this, of course, can only be noticed by native speakers. But then we wanted to make this also Yugoslav kind of space. So we were also discussing, I think, Macedonian at one point, and something was written maybe. Yeah, and then in the end, Arabic was also due to somehow practical thing that we wanted to deal with the refugee crisis and the refugee routes, which are also some part of lines, maybe not desire lines, but definitely like paths that they walked, and then this was an obvious and practical thing to have.
Because this is the thing, the film was, we started to write the film in 2000, I started in 2016, and from 2018 on, the mountain where the film was supposed to be shot became part of the routes, migrant routes. So the people were just there, and it just felt like, okay, this is now what is happening. And in the film that is so much concerned with walking, it had to be part of the film. And that's why there is also this movement toward Arabic at the end. Because, it is just what is there now.
Thank you. Do we have a question in the front?
Thank you. I was wondering how you made that transparent worm. I can imagine that it is pre-production things that when you write the script or when you are shooting that scene, you need to imagine how it's crawling into his skin and into his mouth or having some interaction with his body. I was wondering how many stages you've been experienced to making that come true.
It's CGI, so it was completely created. There was nothing, there was no marker during the shoot. It's just the magic of acting. And apart from that, it was completely constructed in post-production. And it was a laborious process. So. We had the dots on the body so that it's marks, so that you can apply this image onto the body of the actor. But I think what I maybe wanted, there was no marker for the creature itself. Ivan had to imagine the trajectory, and of course it was clear that it's going to enter through the mouth. Yes, I had to direct. This is what you do when you direct a film, you direct. But it was just long. It was a long process.
Thank you. So we have another question here.
Thank you. I also, like someone else said, have a lot of questions. I would like to ask two, if it's not a problem. First of all, you said before the beginning of the movie that in some ways it took you many years to make, but in others it came to you in a single breath, and I wanted to know if you can elaborate on that. And also, if any of you want to talk a little bit about, it felt like a very queer movie, and if you wanted to talk a little bit about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for saying that. I also think it's a queer film. You know, I really wanted to make a queer film, and I think I made it. You know, there are, maybe for some people, there were questions, it is something that is too subtle, but I also think that for me, queerness is not, I think it's a bit almost like disappointing for me to see cinema where it is only part of an identity, you know, where it's just an identity that is applied to someone who is a character, and then the film itself moves in a way that is actually straight. So it had to be, not had to be, but this is what I wanted, is to make a film that moves queerly, that just doesn't go straight, and that goes and then goes, and then that this is how the film moves. So I'm happy that this is there. And for the one breath is because this film took so much time, you know, like, and you already get, you know, it's a bit of a complicated film, you know, you have 2 DOPs, set designers were separated, then with via this little that you had a chance to hear Tanya speak, there is layers of that. But when we started to make it, I really wanted it to be like a film that is just in one breath or in one gesture. Like when you imagine the whole film, then you don't think about this complex system that goes into the past and future and that spreads in so many different ways, but you're like, it's just this. So like film in one movement, in one breath, and that it can be at the same time as simple as that and as complicated as all of these things that we somehow pointed towards in our conversation. So yeah, this is maybe what I meant.
And maybe speaking of this queerness in the film, there's something that you were saying today at the press conference that I found very interesting, and it's this relationship with nature in that context.
Yeah, there was a question today about, in general, nature and how the interest and also the approach. And the thing is that the term nature is so often waved against queer experience. We are so often told that the way we live, the way we love is not natural, you know, and that natural is something else. And for me, it was, this film was also about wanting to maybe show how nature itself is not natural, you know, like nature is always about inventing and about negotiating, and about, it is also always what we make out of it, you know. And it was, the film was, yeah, invent or figure out or show a queer nature, a different type of nature, you know, because I think this was, I think there is something liberating about that, you know, to take a weight of certain concepts away from this natural, artificial thing, and show how they are always intertwined, you know, how they are always in between, and how much they depend on what we want to make out of them, you know.
Thank you, Dane. Do we have some more questions from you? Next thing I would like to talk a bit is this. There's been the question of the CGI, the creatures. Well, creatures, because it's not only the ending in the film, but there's also the worm from the mouth. But there's two other very strong visual interventions in the film. One is in the first part, and it's the use of this thermal camera. And the other one is in the second part, towards the end, where we see this abandoned factory that somehow becomes alive again through AI, I assume. So I wanted to ask you about these visual ideas.
Okay, so the thing is that I don't know, the thermal camera seemed very much, very close to a lot of things that are, you know, explored maybe in the film. I mean, there is this, the shadow of the military, which can be read in a way of, yeah, the history that we here share, but I mean, there is also the thing that this very well researched relationship between military technologies and cameras, you know, like how actually what we use here to create art is always previously tested and used in military, you know, and that there is this strong link between looking at things and capturing things. And this is somehow a film which is about a body that keeps on escaping from the gaze, and that for the thermal camera was just another way to film the body, you know, to also dissolve the body, boundaries of the body in another visual way. And with the AI, I think it was a challenge, you know, like I think it was in a film which somehow where you meet, like these different temporalities crash into each other, it felt like it offers us a way to maybe show an image of a factory that is made by another man-made machine, by AI. So it's almost like one machine observes or thinks or dreams about the other machine. And this image that we see is the result of that. You know, it's like almost like a dialogue between two man-made systems. This is how I saw it.
Yeah, I would just add that I don't remember actually in the process whether the idea for the AI was there before or after the location scouting. But in terms of the process of how we did it, it's actually one of the photos that we took on the location scouting where we wanted to film. And then this idea of kind of like showing these multiple time layers that are also mentioned in the monologue of the monument spoken by the protagonist. It's like one way to imagine all of these possible pasts, but also futures. So the idea was to kind of activate different images that can take place in the factory, not only belonging to the past.
Thank you. Do we have some more questions? If not, I would like to go on, because we already spoke about, you know, these maybe layers of the past. You mentioned the partisans, and in a way, in the film, not only we see them, but in a way we see the space where they were walking, and this is also the space where these migrant routes that you were mentioning happen, and it's the space also where some other wars happened more recently in former Yugoslavia, and it's also where your characters inhabit and move. So this idea of, you know, as you said, the past and the future, or history being inscribed in the landscape, is something that I find very, very interesting in this film. So yeah, I wanted to ask you if you'd like to share something more about maybe this, and specifically maybe the history and the history of the 20th century in Yugoslavia taking place in these spaces.
this one works. I mean, this is a big question. So I see the film very much about like it's a film that deals a lot with like boundaries and limits and frontiers. So it's a body, we are following a body that is trying to somehow break through its own boundaries and limits. It is also a film about passing through borders and trying to pass over borders and through boundaries and through frontiers. And when we were growing up, we were always like, this was the narrative that what happened in socialist Yugoslavia was not desired to happen again. I think I don't know if I can say we, but I think it was something that was shared, was like trying to see if there is something and what it is in these ideas that can be taken further, you know? And I think it was a certain sense or a horizon of a way of living that is truly shared, you know? And I think in a moment where so many boundaries are being reinstated or made even more rigid, that it was important to point towards another way of being together, the one where boundaries dissolve, you know, rather than where they are being made even more firm than before.
Would someone maybe like to add something to these ideas?
I just thought how it was interesting that in those woods, like partisans, they make their own like desire lines to find their freedom. Then you have immigrants who are doing their own desire lines to find their freedom. And now we have Branko, who is also crossed that wall of the city, and now he's in the woods and trying to find his own freedom.
Thank you. And I have one last question, let's say. I have many more, but maybe we can finish with this one. And it's again a question about movement, which is present throughout the whole film. But then the ending of the film, in a way, traces a movement backwards. Physically, the main character moves backwards. And before that, we also see this transformation that circles back to the beginning of the film, that he, in one moment, sorry if I got it wrong, but transforms into the brother that he was chasing, that he was following. So I wouldn't know to say whether it's a movement backwards or it's a circular movement, but I would be curious to hear your ideas about this specific thing.
If it's straight or queer, the movement. Well, it's... I think it goes back and takes a lot of what you've seen in the beginning, but it is somehow undoubtedly changed, you know. So I think he goes on somewhere, taking maybe some parts of what was there before, but transforming hopefully into something new. And this is where the film ends, with this new beginning that is only pointed towards. No.
So thank you so much, Dane. Thank you very much for presenting the world premiere of Desire Lines at Locarno. The film is playing in the next days again at the festival, so please spread the word about it. Thank you, Jenny Lou, thank you, Tanya, thank you, both Ivans and Dane, and the rest of the team that is present here. And yeah, let's have a drink. Yay. Thank you.